Xbox kicked off its 2025 with the Developer Direct for a third year in a row, and once again 5 games were talked about, although with a catch regarding one of them. So let's dive into it. The Direct opened with the reveal of Ninja Gaiden 4, a brand new 3D character action game from Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja, with the twist that Platinum is also working on the project. This time, you'll be able to play as Yakumo, a new character that comes from a clan that rivals Ryu's, and of course you also play as Ryu Hayabusa. I like that the developers didn't try to leave it up in the air whether Ryu is playable or not. They also didn't try to make Ryu a villain, as some games do when they introduce a new protagonist. My biggest concern about this game is that recently there have been a lot of news about them bleeding staff to other studios, and overall struggling to develop games. Let's hope Ninja Gaiden 4 doesn't get affected. It is currently slated for fall of 2025. Koei Tecmo also announced and released Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, a remade version of the original release on Unreal Engine 5. I've already installed on my PC, but couldn't get around to play it yet. The second game was South of Midnight, from Compulsion Games. The presentation focused on introducing the protagonist, Hazel, after unlocking weaving powers that allow her to fight monsters and rid spirits of the corruption. The combat shown looked interesting, though the dodge seemed a bit over the top, which might end up making the fights a bit easy. The game has interesting visuals inspired by landscapes of the southern US, and the stop motion is fine, granted I am not the biggest stop motion fan, so my opinion may not count for much on that. But the stop motion during gameplay had me worried. I hope you can turn it off, as the stop motion can cause you to react at wrong times during combat. It releases on April 8th. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was the third game shown. It has a darker setting, where people above a certain age disappear when a mysterious paintress paints the age on a monolith, and the player is part of the titular expedition to try and stop it. Expedition 33 is an RPG with a mix of turn-based and real-time action. The developers went really in-depth about the characters and combat, showing different skill trees and a huge list of perks for the characters. The developers were also really proud of their world map, and I'll give them credit, it looks good, but was a strange detail to be proud of. This game feels a bit harder to judge, since it's the kind of game you need to play to properly assess it. The heavy customization can be very tricky, and it is very easy to miss, either by making very easy to make absolute broken combinations, or by having majority of the choices irrelevant. Expedition 33 releases on April 24. The last game was Doom: The Dark Ages. Id Software did a really good presentation, being able to show players what's the big difference between the Dark Ages and the previous 2 games, showing a Doomslayer that looked much more tanky, with emphasis on the shield saw, the new weapon that is replacing the hook, and how it's changed combat, either by blocking, parrying, or throwing the shield at enemies. The combat also had more changes, with players being able to use 3 different types of melee attacks: the gauntlet, the flail, and the mace. The last change to combat was the glory kill, now being much more fluid and not being tied to a specific moment, which will really help the game flow better. It also talked about the levels being more like a sandbox that reward exploration, but they didn't really show enough to impress me. They also talked about the addition of the giant mechs and the dragon. While they said these were not one-off mechanics, I noticed that all the mech sections seemed to be in the same area, which could point for the mechs just being usable on the levels that are set on that area. The dragon gameplay did seem to have more variations, so that's better. Doom: The Dark Ages releases on May 15. The Xbox Developer Direct had a nice surprise with Ninja Gaiden, both of them, and all the other games had a good showing. I noticed that South of Midnight, Expedition 33, and Doom all released in the span of 5 weeks, so I'm worried that Microsoft might cannibalize its own sales, especially South of Midnight and Expedition 33, which are just 2 weeks apart. These were my thoughts about the Xbox Developer Direct. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you around.